Today we're going to play Big Kid Lego and make an awesome aquascape. What's going on, guys? Devin with ReefDudes. Now I just picked up a bunch of Marco Rock. Well, actually I've had it for ages, but we are going to work on doing an aquascape for the new waterbox tank. I have this nice lovely chunk of glass which was from an old shower. So this makes like a nice little platform to aquascape on and will give us something good to work with. Now the length of the glass, I've kind of marked it off at 6 feet, which is right where the tape is. And the width of it is about 19. I believe the tank is about 25, so that will give us a few inches on either side just to make sure it all comes together smoothly and there's lots of room to clean the glass all around the aquascape. After playing with rock many times, one thing I've learned is it's a good idea to use gloves. I always tend to destroy my hands, and playing with the rock tends to dry them out. Pro tip. So a couple things we're going to do. First of all, I got a few different types of Marco Rock. Now this one, I believe I don't know if they call it prime cuts or what they call it, but it has the one side's a flat cut, which is really nice to use on your glass. Now if you have normal rock, you can use a hacksaw or you can use a hammer to kind of chop it and flatten it, and that works too. But now since we have this, it does give you a really good base to work off of. So I kind of laid out some of them to give me a little bit of rock to pick from and start to work through it. Now the second type of rock I got is, now this one I believe is actually the prime cuts, but now it is flat on both sides, so you can make really cool shelves. Now what I like about this is it's not cut flat, it's natural flat, so you don't have that weird kind of flat line hanging underneath. And last but not least, we have just a bunch of random different base rock. Some of these you can see I've used before and already started chiseling from previous tanks and builds and projects. So we're going to go through here and see what we can mix together and come up with for a cool scape. I'm a little bit torn because I do like the bonsai look and I also kind of like the shelfie look. So I might try and find some way to blend the two. We'll see how that goes. Now I do like to have lots of caves. I believe that's really important for fish. Makes them feel safer, gives them lots of hiding spaces. But of course I also want tons of coral space. So we got to figure out some way to blend the two. Another kind of thing to consider is the height of your aquascape. I generally won't try to come up less than about halfway of the tank. That way you're giving lots of space for your corals to grow into down the road. That might be kind of cool. Different levels of the caves. It would be cool to kind of have like a floating jet out type of thing somewhere further down the tank. So I think I might try and find some rocks that will work for that. Now another big thing I do when I'm scaping is try and find ways that the rocks fit together kind of naturally. That way it gives flow to your structure and doesn't look like a stack of rocks. And that's a bit of a challenge, but I find that goes quite a long ways to work with something along those lines. These guys have the flat bottoms. Now this is what I actually built my previous scape from in the big tank, was just all the standard base rock. And it turned out pretty darn good, but it did take me a while to build it. So lots of just moving, playing with rocks, trying to find places where they interlock together naturally. And that goes a long way for creating something that kind of flows nicely. So I don't think that's the right piece for the bottom. So this may require a little bit of a bigger base to balance this out, but puppy room. I'm still hitting a little bit of a mind block. I want to do that one structure, so I'm going to clear off the table a bit and try and work on something over here, then I'll figure out a way to bridge them or connect them after. So I've obviously changed this many times since we started, and it's still kind of a work in progress. This is probably going to overhang a little more. Just kind of set in a bit more until I use some glue or something. So looking at it, I think it's kind of a funky structure, and if you look top down, gives you a good chunk of coral placement in different levels. Next structure over, again, I've changed this one many times. I'm trying to get lots of different levels, lots of different coral placements. And this one, I'm digging the super big overhang. I think that's kind of cool how it'll float out there. I'm thinking if I do something like all kinds of acan garden over here, maybe up top I'll do torches, maybe a couple torches here so they kind of bridge the gap, might look pretty cool. Now this is probably going to change a few more times because, well, that's just how it works in your aquascape. Now ideally if you have dry rock, you're not in a rush, you can play with it and keep changing it. So change it many times till you find something you're really happy with. And that's kind of one of the key things. Now once I figure out or decide on what exactly I'm going to do, I'm going to start gluing the rock. See how that rock kind of goes underwards? Now this one I'm going to have to twist out a bit more so that way it gets more light from the top down and gives you more coral real estate. So all these little things you kind of got to think of as you go around and keep doing it. But I do have some Marco 400, so some aquascaping mortar. A hydraulic mortar that will cure in water after settling, trying to handle 1 to 2 hours. Now my one concern is it's freaking cold outside right now, so we're gonna leave this a lot longer to cure just to be safe. So it wants me to mix 375 mils of water to the pouch. Seal it up and shake it well. Now because it does dry fast, we are gonna do some small batches and probably just do a couple rocks at a time. And then I'm probably just gonna do like a rock or two every other day just to kind of slowly get through it and make sure everything has time to fully dry. And we'll add a bit of liquid and stir till it's kind of a nice kind of creamy consistency. That's obviously way too dry, so we'll add a little more. Add a little too much liquid as it's pretty runny. You want it to be more like a thick batter, kind of like, think if you're making like pancakes. You don't want it clumpy, but you want it fairly thick. It's getting better. Yeah, it's looking pretty good. So we're gonna start with gluing this big overhang. Now I also find if you wet the rock, it also kind of helps it bond a bit better. So I'm just gonna mist it. And this kind of just helps it not pull out so much out of the concrete. There we go. Okay, now that I got it locked in, I kind of want to look around and see where all the touch points are. So it's touching there and along there. Nothing's really touching there. If I come to the bottom, I can see it's touching there and over there. So those are all the spots that I'm going to glue. Another thing you can do is kind of use a finger just to push it into the gaps. And as it kind of seals those gaps, it almost kind of works to lock it in together a little bit better as well. So basically the more points that you can get it to connect with itself, the better. Another thing you can do, if you have some rock dust, is kind of sprinkle it in, and this will help blend in your joints. So you won't notice the gray as much. Another little pro tip. Okay, so this one, there really is only the 3 contact points. Now we have the couple rocks glued, I'm gonna not touch it for a couple hours. I don't really wanna risk bumping it before it cures and breaking that bond, otherwise we're just gonna have to reglue it and that's no fun. So yeah, we'll come back maybe a little later on today and I'll glue another piece or 2 tonight and we'll kind of continue that process over a couple days and we'll make sure it's a nice solid structure in the end so there's no risk of it falling apart or causing any issues in your tank. So yeah, take your time, come up with an awesome aquascape, especially if you're using dry rock. I mean, I've changed this a bazillion times from just tweaking it. I've come out here the last couple days, every hour or two, come out, do a little tweak or two. So take your time, come up with something amazing, especially if you're using dry rock out of the tank. You have the time, so why not utilize it? Hope you guys learned something today, got some new tips. If you did, hit that like button if you're new, make sure you subscribe, and I'll catch you guys on the next video.